for Wendy and Matt.
They're both
there she
here.
is. Hi, Wendy.
I'm here.
Yeah, I think we're ready to go. Why don't we get this started? I'd like to call the meeting to order. Minutes, none presented. Appointments, recognitions, resignations, none presented. Consent agenda, none presented. Selectmen's reports. Any selectmen's reports? No.
John, I do have one thing,
Okay.
and I'm not sure if this is a selectmen's report or more something for Jim. It's regarding the drop off and pickup at the elementary school and concern with traffic in and out of there. I guess there's a lot of people, so I'm not sure that someone just brought it to my attention. And I don't know if I should just email Jim or what you would suggest.
I'd talk to Jim about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll do that. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Anything else from anyone? Okay. Unfinished business. Reestablish the position of Director of Finance Treasurer. Darrell, you want to talk about this?
Sure. Basically, up until 2011, we had the position of Director of Finance Treasurer.
Gonna make one of these brownies.
That was eliminated when we were unable to find, after a series of participants that were unable to successfully fill that role, we went back to the treasurer position. I'd like now to go forward and try to bring that position back. I think we're in a situation with the town that we could use that type of skill set in that position. So I did present you with a series of materials to show how that would work, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about that.
Darrell, and I did want to add one thing I didn't see in there, and that is their ex officio role on the Finance Committee.
Yes, that could be added, but that's an assumption because if you look into the job description, it talks about working with the investment committee, but that could be clarified, but that is already built in.
Okay.
Derlin, have you reached out to, was it MMA that you were going to contact regarding filling this position?
Yes.
Has there been any sort of go back and forth with them yet, or is it still too early in the process?
No, it's basically it's been back and forth. And the next move is March 5th is when the first round of closures for the applications comes in.
Okay.
We will get back together and see where we stand at that point, Matt.
I would move to reestablish the position of Director of Finance Treasurer at salary grade level 7, effective upon the date of hire.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I had one question though. You said the first round of applications is due on March 5th, but I mean,
Yes, that's when that first round closes, Jeff.
So, but has the first round been, so it has been posted as
Yes.
this position?
Yes.
So, okay. All right. Yep. That's all.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Appointment of Kendall Davis to Acadia National Park Advisory Commission by Interior Secretary David
Bernhard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he was actually appointed back in April, but the position announcement for some odd reason was embargoed until just recently as the administration's changed. I believe he was functioning in that role, but I was asked not to officially name him to the position until I was given the okay to do so. So Kendall is in, he's been to a meeting. I think they had a meeting in February.
Mhm.
And I think at some point in time, once we get by some of this budget things, it might be a good idea to bring in and just kind of get his opinions of what's going on and what you may want to have him working on our behalf.
Sure. I'll bet he's happy to be doing this. What happened? We had another fellow in there before Kendall.
No, we didn't have, we had nominations, but no one was officially appointed. People were encouraged to go and attend the meetings,
Yeah, I thought somebody else had been appointed. All right,
right?
good. Okay, item C. Approval of fire chief's request to amend the motion and approval to use up to $7,500 from town office building reserve account number 4050100-24570 from the January 19, 2021 Board of Selectmen's meeting to read authorizing fire chief Bender to spend up to $7,500 to continue the review of the options for the public safety building from fire station building reserve account number 404-0300-24470 with a balance of $59,847.62.
I think that's really
Before we do that,
straightforward.
John, I think we need to appoint, so I would like to just move that we appoint Kendall Davis to the Acadia National Park Advisory Commission.
Actually, actually, no, you don't need to do that.
No,
It's already done?
You already, your role was to nominate, okay? The
Okay.
Secretary of the Interior did the appointment.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
no,
So is-
no problem. It's a kind of a convoluted process, Wendy.
Is this item we're talking about with the fire chief Bender? Is this just changing the authorization?
Changing the
for-
account.
Yeah,
Modifying the account.
Right, so we already sort of had this discussion, we just made an error.
Yeah, but you need to clean it up and make sure the right accounts are in there, Jeff.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
yes,
Yeah, I'll just explain a little bit further. Originally, we were going to take this money out of the town's building and grounds fund because it encompassed not only fire and EMS, but the police. But this last option, we did not include the police, it's just fire and EMS. So both Tony and I thought it'd be better suited to take the money out of the fire building reserve rather than the town's building and grounds reserve.
okay. Works.
I move that we adopt this motion or amend this motion or accept this motion, however it is.
I think, I'm sorry, the treasurer recommended amending your original motion.
So I recommend that we amend our original motion to read as is printed to that
Second.
John just read. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, let's move on to new business. Service groups, third-party budget 2021-22 requests. Okay. I would ask you all, when you do your presentations, to try and keep it to about 5 minutes. Okay? Good.
Usually we say 3.
Well, I know, we have fewer. Try and be succinct.
John, do you want to announce who's,
Yep, I'm getting there.
okay,
All right, Acadia Family Center. Now, I didn't get a sheet for these guys.
No, we didn't either.
neither?
I asked Claire and she said they didn't send one in, so I guess they're not eligible.
All right. How about Acadian Youth Sports? I see Kyle down there. Yeah.
I won't take much of your time, but if you don't know what Acadian Youth Sports is, it's a nonprofit youth sports organization. We cover the island and Trenton and Lemoyne as well. We provide football, baseball, softball, golf, and cheering to the youths of Mount Desert and the rest of the island. We have had a difficult year of 2020, much like everybody else. We were able to do some semblance of youth sports, starting with baseball and softball, following all the CDC protocols that were put in place for community sports. We did clinics, and we're actually able to hold a couple of scrimmage type games, which was good for the kids to get outside. And more recently, we've been able to do a little bit of basketball, again, using the same, well, not the same guidelines, but the guidelines made available to us. We've been pretty successful in that. We've been able to mitigate a lot of, well, some of the risks as best we can. And we're on our sheet here, we're requesting the 2,000 from the town just so we can try to keep as best we can providing those opportunities for the kids in Mount Desert and the rest of the island. And it's really so we can improve our equipment and uniforms and things like that, as those expenses never really go away. So with that, I'll leave you folks to it, but that is kind of what we do and what we've done this past year.
Thanks, Kyle. Right. Any questions for Kyle?
Kyle, did you really not request money last year, or did you request it and just not take it? I can't figure that part out.
We missed it last year.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry you missed it.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Right.
I have a softball question for you, pun intended. If a family can't, if it doesn't fit into their budget to have a child or children participate, you guys work with them to make sure that can still happen for that child, correct?
We have never and would never turn a child away.
Okay.
All right. Aid Society of Otter Creek. I will say one thing here, and that is we did not apply for any money last year, and we did not apply for any money this year. Okay, so Claire, if you could sort of amend that. We tend not to ask for money if we don't have any projects in mind, so we haven't been asking for money. All right, American Red Cross Pine Tree Chapter.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Great. So my name is Rachel. I'm presenting to you from the American Red Cross. We're actually the Northern New England region, so we've kind of broadened beyond the localized chapters, though we are still present all throughout Maine. I am here tonight to request a renewal of support from the town of Mount Desert. We have been working through a lot of the same challenges as everyone else, but I can just let you know in fiscal year 2020, we did not respond to any disaster events in Mount Desert, but there were 10 events throughout Hancock County. We do through our home fire campaign, we do a Homes Made Safer project where we help families build fire evacuation plans. We also make sure that everyone has working smoke detectors, things like that. We were able to do that for one household in Mount Desert during the previous fiscal year, which of course is challenging when we're practicing social distancing. So we're continuing to find new and meaningful ways to provide that level of support. Through our blood services, the blood donations, which I'm sure most folks are pretty familiar with, but we collected, and again, we measured this by county. So we collected just over 1,000 pints of blood at blood drives in Hancock County last year. Our blood goes to local hospitals. It's of course always a priority to keep blood on the shelves. We have also been navigating the challenges of social distancing for blood drives, things like that. And about midway through last year, we added a antibody testing to every blood or blood product that we collect for COVID-19. And we also continue to collect COVID convalescent plasma, which there is evidence to suggest that that plasma is beneficial to folks who have extremely severe cases of COVID-19. So that's one way that we've really been stepping up to support our communities during this very challenging time in history. The request that, or the support that we're requesting this year is for general support. So we're not asking for anything toward a specific project or campaign, just general support. As you may or may not know, the Red Cross does not receive any state or federal funding for the work that we provide, and it is free of charge. So we rely very much on support from the communities that we serve. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You, Rachel.
Thank you.
Any questions for Rachel?
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Bar Harbor Food Pantry. Bar Harbor Food Pantry.
Hi there, I'm
Hey.
Allison Bean. I'm here to represent the Bar Harbor Food Pantry tonight. As you all probably are aware, the food pantry serves not just Mount Desert Island, but also all of Hancock County. We are currently searching for an executive director, so bear with me as I try to fill in tonight. But we, as you would imagine with a food pantry, are providing healthy food to folks that are food insecure and hoping to eliminate hunger. As you can imagine, it was a very busy year for us in 2020. We have seen an increase in the number of individuals and families that we are serving. Currently, for the number of families that we serve out of Mount Desert is 48 households. All of our funding that we receive from the town goes to the purchase of food. And this year we're anticipating that our needs will be roughly the same as last year. So we are again asking for $3,500. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Allison.
This is-
Any questions
yeah.
for Allison?
I just have I think in the application, I know it says 3,500, which I know that you meant to make 3,500 and not, is that right?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay, thank you.
3,500.
Good. All right. Community Health and Counseling Services. Anybody from that organization? Okay, we'll move along. Down East Community Partners.
Hi, my name is Sarah Nugent. I'm the Manager of Communications and Resource Development at DCP. And I just want to thank you for your past support and tell you a little bit about what we do. We are the Community Action Program for Washington and Hancock counties. So we provide services to help low-income families meet the basic needs of life. And you may have noticed our request this year is substantially lower than it was last year. That's because we generally ask for 5% of the services provided, and 2020 was a challenging year for keeping things going. So our transportation expenditures in Mount Desert were way down. Also, our housing weatherization program generally rotates. So they'll come in and do a town for a year and then move to another town. So last year was your year and this year was not. So that's why our request is lower. We are still providing all the same services that we always have. With COVID, we added a lot of food service, food insecurity, so food meal delivery. We operate a food pantry out of our Ellsworth office that's for anyone in Hancock County. We just added emergency food boxes. If a family is out of food, we can give them food to get them through till they can get to the food pantry. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Thank you, Ashley. Down East Horizon. I'm sorry, Sarah.
That's okay.
Down East Horizons.
Hello, I'm from Down East Horizons. My name is Ashley Johnson. I want to thank you for your many years of support over the years. We certainly do appreciate it. Just those who do not know who we are and what we do, we are a nonprofit agency that was founded in 1971 to serve adults and children with developmental disabilities, including adults with Down syndrome, autism, Asperger's syndrome, and epilepsy. For adult services provided, we do provide services in day and evening programs, community supports, residential services, and employment supports. We do have a day program at the head of the island in Bar Harbor, which most of you know or pass through by. And we do have a residential home on Knox Road in Bar Harbor as well, which is right down the road from our day program. For children's services provided, we provide community supports and social group services, and also providing daily life skills to improve our children's independence with activities, with community integration and behavior management. Number of people we usually serve from this year for the town of Mount Desert is 45 individuals, and this includes the consumers, and then providing services to their families. For those who are families, our children who live on the town, throughout the town of Mount Desert, living with mom and dad and any siblings that they have. An average annual cost to each consumer is around $47,000, and it's doubled for those who live in our group home. As I remind you, we do have one group home on Knox Road, and that provides residents of up to 6 people who are currently living on that house, who are provided 24-hour care. Total number of program participants we are currently serving is 225, and some of them are going to the Bar Harbor program, our Ellsworth program, and our Brewer Center, along with our 9 residential homes. So we are growing every year. The need is out there, and I am here for any questions. And again, we thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashley, and for all you do. Any questions? All right, so we'll move along to Eastern Area Agency on Aging.
Hello, Diane Walsh, Executive Director at Eastern Area Agency on Aging. Thank you all for your support last year and for years prior. For those of you who are not familiar with the agency, we're an organization that serves Penobscot, Piscataquis, Washington, and Hancock counties. Most people know the organization for the Meals on Wheels program. Primarily, we have provided a lot of support in that program over the past year. As you can imagine, the eligibility guidelines for Meals on Wheels have changed over the last year because of the pandemic. And so we are able to serve about 3 times the number of people now that we were serving a year ago. And so we are serving more people too within your town. The organization serves adults, caregivers, also adults with disabilities. We provide a lot of Medicare counseling to individuals who are aging into Medicare and have questions about how their insurance works with other insurances. We also provide a lot of caregiver support for individuals who are caring for a loved one with an Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis. And happy to provide any other information or answer any questions that you might have about the organization.
Thank you, Diane. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move along. Emmaus Homeless Shelter.
Hello, I'm Stacy, the director of the Emmaus Homeless Shelter. I'd like to start by saying thank you to all for your continued support over the years. We greatly appreciate it. It's been a crazy year. I don't know if you all went by the shelter at all this summer. We had a lot of major exterior and interior repairs to keep our building just up and running. So that's complete now, which is great, but it was a challenge. We are not only a homeless shelter, but we're also a food pantry. We do produce as well, which is where we pick up short date food from Hannaford and Shaw's, and people come and take whatever they need. There's no limit. They can come and shop and get all the food that they want. We do that twice a week. It's been changed a little bit because of COVID. The summer we did it outside in a parking lot instead of inside our shelter. And we continue to conquer any barriers that we have during this time. We also have our Christmas and our Thanksgiving programs. When it comes to our homeless shelter, we're a 25-bed facility. We have a women's dorm and a men's dorm, and we're also a family shelter, which is really unique about our shelter. There's not a lot of family shelters around. It was very challenging with COVID and the building repairs that we needed to have done. It took our shelter down to a little bit less than half capacity at times. So we had to work really hard on making sure that people had other places to go when we weren't able to help them. We put people up in local motels so we could keep them off the streets. But we've worked really, really hard to continue our services through all the challenges that we've had. Is there any questions anybody has?
Any questions for Stacy?
Were you able to, Stacy, I have a question. Were you able to keep everyone safe and healthy during COVID?
We absolutely have, yes. And that has been, it's been very scary.
Yeah.
It has been very challenging. We did, and one of the reasons why we're half capacity is because we actually had to take one room and make a quarantine room just in case. We have all been healthy, our staff and our residents, and it has been scary at times for sure. I'm not going to say we haven't had a couple of scares here and there, but we absolutely all have been healthy, and it has been wonderful, and we feel very, very lucky.
Well, congratulations. That's impressive. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Families First Community Center.
Hi, I'm Maureen Bartley, and I was hired by Families First Community Center in November of 2020. We have officially finished the construction. We have obtained our occupancy for people to live in the building. We have 6 apartments, a 4-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, and 4 2-bedrooms. We have submitted housing applications for our first 2 families to move in, which we're hoping within 2 weeks. Our mission is to serve homeless families in Hancock County with minor children. That can mean living in a hotel, living in a place that's not safe. We are a project-based voucher program, so we will be providing rent, utilities, and giving these families the opportunity to breathe, set a life plan, work on some goals, whether it be a car, a GED. I was going over our review of our reports, and it looked like you had supported us in the past for our construction part, and I asked that maybe you would consider helping us keep families in Hancock County off the street and into a better program. So that's what I know about our relationship, and I thank you, and I hope that you support us in the future. Any questions?
I just had one question. And for lack of a better term, and maybe you have a term you use, but turnaround time, when you have a family come in, ideally for you folks, what would be sort of the time frame for sort of helping them along and giving them a hand up to sort of get back out on their own?
So HUD pays the project-based vouchers. They say if someone can complete a year with us without any interruptions of tenancy, they'll give them a Section 8 voucher so that they can go someplace else in the community and live. We're saying realistically, probably a year to 18 months, possibly 2, so that families really can, if you're just going to start a GED program, you need time to do that. And goals for budgeting in a car are going to take a little longer than 6 months.
Right. Good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have one more question. I'm sorry.
Sure.
How many families can you accommodate?
We can accommodate 6 at the house, but we can also, in the spring, we're looking to provide outreach services to other people in the community, whether it be food, clothing, other agencies, case management, but we can house 6 families in 6 apartments. And we're at 41 North Street in Ellsworth. It's a renovated 1889 Victorian style house. It's very beautiful. And it's been 5 years, this project is finally taking off. Thank you.
Great.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great Harbor Maritime Museum.
This is Sydney Roberts Rockefeller. I'm the chair of the board, and I feel a little bit undone by the people who came ahead of me. I don't have anything really poignant to say about my request. We asked last year for $5,500 for the bathrooms, which are in front of the museum, because people use them and use them and use them, and it was getting to the point where we needed to get more supplies. And so we were turned down because the museum wasn't open last year because of COVID. So we don't know what's going to happen this year because of COVID. But what I'd like to say is that we would like to at least have this chance to be optimistic about it. And the thing that was very interesting to me is that the town took upon itself to put porta potties behind the museum for the summer. I think most of you know my feelings about the bathrooms. And so I would just like to say that I thank you for your energy of helping us out in the past, and would be very interested in answering any questions.
Well, thank you, Sydney. And I will say you can't underestimate the importance of public toilets in villages. Being somebody that has visited villages all over the state of Maine. Thank you, Sydney.
Thanks, John.
Health Equity Alliance. Health Equity Alliance. Okay. We'll pass over that then. Hospice Volunteers of Hancock County.
Hello, I'm Jody Wolford Tucker, Executive Director of Hospice Volunteers of Hancock County. And like so many before me, I will thank you for your support in the past. We're an organization that doesn't charge for our services or receive any reimbursement from insurance or anything like that. So we really do consider our services to be partnerships with the towns that we serve, and our volunteers come from the towns that we serve and serve their neighbors. So it really is a partnership that works well. We ask all the towns in Hancock County to support us, and about 28 towns do support us annually with small gifts. We don't ask any one town to, make a huge chunk, but together the aggregate of all of the town's support in Hancock County makes up about 7 or 8% of our operating budget. For the town of Mount Desert, you have provided us with a financial gift of $1,500 for the past few years, and that is what we've asked for again this year. Our mission services are 3-pronged: patient care and caregiver support for those who are dealing with life-limiting illness, bereavement support services, and community education and outreach. And during COVID, patient care had to be pulled way back because of the needs for safety of all involved. We did continue to serve families, patients, and their caregivers through phone calls, and volunteers would call and read over the phone to the patient that they were serving as we went into lockdown. Cards, phone calls to support caregivers. And just within the last couple of months, we have gone back into homes doing the direct patient care with very carefully managed protocols and case management, care management that is done in conjunction with our medical hospice partners. We are an independent organization that provides the volunteer members of the hospice team, which is a defined team. That's a benefit of Medicare that defines a medical director, a nurse, a home health aide, a physical therapist, social worker, clergy, and volunteer. And our program, the all volunteer program, predated the availability of any medical hospice in the county. And so when the medical hospices came into play, in their wisdom, they contracted with us to provide the volunteer members of the team, which, as I said, are mandated members of the team. And so it works great because as independents, we're able to really respond to the needs of our local community without having to check off quite as many boxes. And we work hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with the medical hospice providers. It's a very good relationship that works very well to serve the community. For example, my colleague, Lori Johnson, our program director, is currently the chair of the palliative care advisory group at MDI Hospital. So palliative care is a type of holistic care that manages symptoms and manages comfort for folks who aren't quite ready for hospice. And so a main goal of our program is to try to get into those situations earlier rather than later so that the families, patients and families can benefit for longer in their journey from the support that is available. Bereavement support services, grief support services have skyrocketed during COVID. Everything is being done virtually, and we have found that it's been a real gift to be able to serve more people through support groups that are happening online. We've got 3 active support groups running right now, plus what we have recently nuanced into a new program called Choosing Resilience, which is kind of how to deal with all of the challenges of aging and loss, and especially now during COVID. And we had so many people register for that group, we had to divide it into 3 sections and have a waiting list of 5 people for the next time we offer it. And in addition, also during COVID, our community education and outreach services have just exploded because while we're offering these programs on, again, resilience, isolation, the depression and other things that can come through the challenges of COVID, we're able to connect people via online services. And March 1st, we'll start a 5-session series every Monday in March at noon. We're offering another educational program, and that will be number 22 through number 27 programs that we have offered to the community, and people can participate from all over free of charge, all just since COVID hit. So come one, come all. We would love to have you join us for these services, and the support from the town of Mount Desert will really help make that happen. So thank you again, and I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Jody. Any questions? No. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Island Connections.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Doreen Willett from Island Connections. I'm the executive director. And as Jody said, thank you so much for your support over the years. I was just looking back in QuickBooks and I could see as far back as 2005 that the town of Mount Desert has been supporting us. So thank you for that. For those of you who aren't familiar with Island Connections, we are a volunteer transportation system here on the island, and we are providing those services to seniors and people with disabilities. as well as providing the Wheels for the Meals on Wheels program here on MDI. And as with everyone, as everybody said earlier, COVID definitely put a little crimp in our skirt, so to speak, but we were able to manage the ability to give rides very safely by providing our volunteers with PPE. In 2019, we provided just over 5,000 rides. And during the pandemic in 2020, we provided 3,666 rides. So we were still able to continue on. We also created a volunteer grocery shopping program in lieu of actually taking folks grocery shopping, so that there were less access to the virus. Obviously, they're vulnerable people. A lot of our grocery shopping was done through the folks over at Maple Lane Apartments. We have quite a few neighbors over there that we serve. And the volunteer goes grocery shopping for them on a weekly basis. So they were not going without, obviously, food. And we were able to expand our services there as well as across the island. We did have to cancel all of our events, our fundraising events. The only one that we were able to run was the one in January, our Chowder and Chili Chowdown. Otherwise, we had to cancel everything. And our normal request for the town of Mount Desert is $2,500. And that will again, that was increased last year or the year before, pardon me, in 2019. And we are again asking for that same amount. 54 residents of the town of Mount Desert were affected by our services. And we provided 50 to 60 rides a month, depending on how many people actually had to go grocery shopping. Some people requested grocery shopping weekly, while some others only requested it 3 times a month or 2 times a month. And the charge for our services is $0. All of our volunteers typically use their vehicles to take our neighbors to medical appointments, cancer treatments, dialysis treatments, any kind of medical appointment you can imagine. And we did stop taking multiple people at a time in vehicles so that we could keep people as safe as possible. We also stopped taking people to social events. Obviously, the social events had stopped. Exercise programs had pretty much stopped for folks. But I will say that the one thing that became very real for me is once we started, all of us started to have to basically stay in place. It reminded me of how a lot of the neighbors that we serve live every day. They are isolated. And Island Connections is giving an opportunity through the volunteer program that we have in transportation to be able to get people out of their homes, give them an opportunity to socialize and create friendships and relationships that they otherwise wouldn't perhaps have. I think that's it. We did deliver close to 16,000 meals for the Meals on Wheels program. As Diane Walsh had said, the increase for the demand for that service was quite large, and through the housing here on the island, they were able to get that many meals prepared, and our volunteers were able to get them in the hands of the people that needed the most. I'm happy to welcome any questions you might have.
Yeah, do you still drive people to Bangor?
Yes, we do, ma'am. We
How
go as
much
far
lead-
as.
How
Pardon?
much lead time do you need?
When we go off island, we require 5 days notice so that we can secure a volunteer to actually do the service.
What happens with people that don't know they need a ride that soon?
Typically, and I will say that typically when someone has to go to Bangor, they're typically going to see a specialist, and those are typically appointments that are made far in advance. If there is an emergency, if there's anything that comes up and someone has to go see their cardiologist, for instance, we will do what we can to try and get a volunteer, We just try to put that, we're not a taxi service, so we're not an on-demand service. So we, as much as I'd love to be, but that's not feasible. We have about 100 volunteers that are registered in our system, but typically between 40 and 70. And I say that it's very liquid because we do have volunteers that come here in the summer months to help us out. So if we have volunteers that are capable of doing that, we can certainly try to make that happen, but we don't guarantee any rides. It's not a guarantee that we can make.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions?
Anybody else?
Great. Thank you,
Excuse me, John.
Yes.
John, it's Claire. And I just received an email from the Health Equity Alliance. They have had trouble joining the meeting. So I told them to try again, and I forwarded their comment to Kyle.
Okay.
Maybe if they can't get in this time, they could come next Monday.
Okay, that was something I was going to ask if you wanted to allow that.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to allow that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Any questions? No? All right, Island Housing Trust.
Hi, this is Natalie Osborne, the Program Associate for Island Housing Trust. Thank you for having us. We're asking for the town's support for our Homeownership Assistance Program, which we refer to as HOPE. We established this program in 2010, and it provides bridge funding to year-round home buyers who are qualified for the mortgage but don't often have the full down payment amount. The HOPE funding does remain with the house, so when it's resold, the purchase price is reduced by the awarded funding. And Island Housing Trust also holds affordability covenants that transfer with the property and keep the resale value within an affordable range for year-round employees on MDI. Any questions?
None? Great. Thank you very
Can I
much.
ask one?
Yes.
Sure. Thanks. It just says here that you had 47 people, residents of the town of Mount Desert last year. Am I reading that
We've
correctly?
had 47 homeowners. So just for the town of Mount Desert, I believe we have 16 HOPE homes, and 2 of those homes are in the town of Mount Desert.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Life Flight Foundation.
Hi, everybody. This is Kate O'Halloran, and I'm the executive director, the newly appointed executive director of the Life Flight Foundation. For those of you who are used to seeing Tom Judge, he is still very much in the mix. Tom is focused full-time on Life Flight and the operations side, and I am working with the foundation. And I will try to limit this to 3 minutes. We certainly have a lot of exciting things that have happened and that we're looking forward to. I too want to say thank you very much. You've been a wonderfully generous donor consecutively for the past 7 years, most recently in October with a gift of $1,000. And that is what we are requesting again, another gift of $1,000. For those of you who may not be familiar with Life Flight, we care for all patients regardless of insurance or their ability to pay. We are unique in that we are the only healthcare organization that really interacts with every community in every county and every hospital. We are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days like today are a little bit more challenging weather-wise. We have bases in Bangor, Lewiston, and Sanford. Each of those have a helicopter, and we have a fixed wing aircraft, which is based in Bangor for some longer flights, as well as we have partnered to do some ground transport. I will just tell you that when I'm a native Mainer, and I knew about Life Flight, but I didn't really know. And so I always just like to tell people, yes, we have incredible helicopters and pilots, but it is really much more than the helicopters. It's a whole coordinated care and system where we bring basically the ICU to patients. And certainly, as you might imagine, this year that has been more important than ever. It's been a very challenging year. I like to say, You know, as if it's not complicated enough to try to deal with Maine's most critically ill patients in a confined space like a helicopter, through rugged terrain like Maine, in winter like this, now we have a pandemic. And so for us, COVID has been challenging. We started transporting our first patients with COVID or presumed to be positive on March 17th. And for us, we had to assume right from the beginning that everybody was positive. I would just tell you that over the summer, we were transporting 20–30% of our patients were positive or presumed positive. We had a day in December where we had 10 missions. That's one about every 2.5 hours. And 75% of them were positive or presumed positive. And yes, it's the person who has symptoms, but it's also the person that we pick up that's had a skiing accident at Sunday River that doesn't know they're positive, but is positive. So it's been challenging. We estimate that COVID is going to add anywhere between 1.8 to 2.2 million to our budget over this year. And we're forecasting making sure we have enough PPP and sterilization and everything that we need to keep our crews and their families safe. We're very proud that we have not had any crew to patient or patient to crew transmissions. We've worked really hard on the protocols. So it has been a challenging year, but through that all, we're actually testing some interesting new things. And really in your area, you may or may not know, we're working with the FAA on a pilot program to do some low-level routes with instrument flight that will allow us to answer the call more often when the weather is bad. And we're actually trying that out from Bangor to Bar Harbor, and we're going to expand on that. I would also say you may have heard in the news recently about the high cost of air transport. Tom Judge is routinely sought out and recognized around the world because he really is an expert in this. We are a nonprofit, so the average cost of our transports is about $17,000. It depends on complexity and distance. We do participate with major insurers, Medicare and MaineCare, but just to give you an idea how that is relative, in New England, that cost is about $23,000, and nationally, it's anywhere from $55,000 to $70,000. So yes, air transport is expensive, but we are working very diligently to make it as affordable as we can. And Tom has been very involved with the No Surprise Act, which you're starting to hear too now about people who've been, not only have they had to battle COVID, now they're trying to pay for the COVID care. In terms of Mount Desert citizens, since Life Flight has started, we have transported 130 of your citizens. 11 of those were in 2020, as well as 2 scene calls. So we are very, very grateful for your support. We depend on it. As the relatively new executive director, I really enjoy going to these meetings. Thank you for your service. Sitting here, I don't envy you. You have difficult decisions to make. And we're just very, very grateful for your past support and hope that you will consider supporting Life Flight again. So thank you, and I'm available for any questions either now or at any point.
Thank you.
Kate, that was a very impressive presentation. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Good, excellent. MDI Campfire Coalition.
John, did you get the email from them?
No.
Last week?
I did not.
Claire, you received an email, right? And they're going next.
Yes, Anne Marie requested that she be able to do it along with the other neighborhood house
Okay.
things. And so Derlin thought that was a good idea. And, you know, instead of making her sit through 2 meetings.
Yep, makes sense. Good. Okay, Mount Desert Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Parsons. I'm the current president still of the Mount Desert Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for this opportunity to present our request for funding. We truly appreciate the town's financial support and continued partnership. As you can see from our application, we are requesting the same amount as last year, with the largest portion of these funds going towards the costs associated with management and operation of the town's visitor center. This past year has been one in which none of us could have planned for, but I cannot express how grateful our board is that we had Mickey Sumter as our executive director, leading us through these challenging times. Mickey?
Okay, thank you very much. As Lisa said, my name is Mickey Sumter, and as the director of the Chamber of Commerce, I have to thank every one of you and all the community for support to us. As everyone knows, this last year was very, very challenging. And in March, it was pretty scary when we all got notified. And I have to tell you, through the State Chamber of Commerce, through all of the other agencies, through the state, the federal agencies, through our town in Durham, we got through this, and we feel we have helped the businesses in many different ways. I do want to thank SRA, the Summer Resident Association. They really came to bat and worked with us, and we worked with them to help the businesses this past year. But as that occurred, your chamber then became a member of the COVID-19 Down East Task Force. And that was like a 24-hour job for everyone to make sure that the businesses, the employees, the employers, and all the visitors and residents were kept abreast of all the information and kept safe at the same time. So those are the many things we worked on this year. At the same time, the visitor center did stay open with CDC regulations, and we did have over 5,000 visitors, which was, to me, very surprising, but they all but 2 followed the CDC regulations, and the other 2 had to leave the building. So we did very well. We worked with different agencies. One is the neighborhood house. We did some events for kids and community, and it was, once again, CDC regulations. I have to say that our membership, we've grown with 27 new members this year. We will hopefully continue to grow. The members are not just of Mount Desert Island. I need to tell you that. We have been called upon, and we have added new members because of what we've been doing outside of the area of Mount Desert. But this coming year, we'll continue support and assist businesses. In the last year, I've asked a couple of my board members, we have met with businesses to help them strategize through this period, but not only through the pandemic, but how they sustain themselves and keep going even after the pandemic. So we worked with them. The visitor center will be open again this year. I want to let you all know that the Bar Harbor Chamber and myself, Alf and I, are really working on a lot of plans because of the pandemic. We know it's not going to be over, but our data shows we are going to have thousands of more visitors this year. And how are we going to cope with that? How are we going to make sure that everybody's safe? And how we get the communication out ahead of time. So you will be hearing from me like you did all year this year, and probably get tired of all my email notices. But we are seeing a major jump in requests this year for visitors. So it's going to be very interesting. We will keep you abreast of everything. We are also now working on the vaccinations, trying to get everybody vaccinated. And as you know, that has been a very big challenge, and it will continue to be a big challenge. But we are working very closely, and you will be hearing, as I do, every week or every 2 or 3 days, whatever it takes, to make sure everybody's aware of all that's going on. But I do want to thank you again. If you have any questions, please, ask, and I will answer. And we will continue to do what we've always done. We will be there for the business community as well as the community as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mickey. Any questions?
Mickey, I have a question. This is Craig Roebuck on the, anyway, congratulations on 27 new members. That's great news. But I'm just curious if you have a feel for what percentage of the Mount Desert businesses are currently members of the chamber?
Oh, I do. It's 92%.
Excellent. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Good.
Love you, my love.
Okay, I think that brings us to the end of tonight's third-party requests. So I think we will thank everyone. Thank you for coming.
Can I just say thank you to Claire? I think it's Claire that provided us all with the applicants and the received and the spreadsheet, because it was a really good way to just track everybody. And I just want to thank her for doing this.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Claire. All right, item B, ambulance service discussion. Basil, do you want to lead this?
I just wanted to say, before Basil goes on, it's going to be very difficult to consider the future of the town of Mount Desert without the ambulance service as being a part of that. They've been, Basil, I think you told me that they started, or maybe it was Scamp, in the 1930s. 1938. 1938. So that's a pretty remarkable long run of service. So I also just want to thank the ambulance directors for giving us such good notice, 2 years to get prepared for that. That's I think that's going to be all the difference in the world of making a very smooth transition. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just talk about kind of, I guess how we got to this, if you're wondering kind of where this came from. I guess everybody's seen that we are going to be, we'd like to basically end doing emergency medical response and care for the municipality with the changeover of service hopefully occurring January 1st, 2023. During the transition of, during this period of transition, we want to continue to provide the town of Mount Desert, Cranberry Isles, and the other communities that we regularly respond to with the same service that we've provided since 1938, and that's important to us. And during this period of transition, we're committed to working with the community and the town of Mount Desert to make sure it is a smooth transition of service. With that being said, how we got to where we are, as I've talked about before with many of you, we've been experiencing a lot of the same issues that the fire department's been experiencing over the years. We were built originally as a volunteer ambulance service completely, with the intent to provide free ambulance service to the town of Mount Desert. So when this originally started, there was no cost to the citizens or the taxpayers at all. Ambulance rides were free. Over the years, so over the years, things have increased as far as requirements. They started out with, ambulance drivers, people that did first aid, and then that slowly increased to the EMTs, paramedics, and over the years has required, the service to start paying its people. As we went through, since 1938, obviously a lot's changed. The big changes really occurred for us, over the last 10 years. We began to experience, lack of year-round responders. We started having trouble filling our board positions. And really what we ended up with is a small amount of people doing a large amount of work, which really left us in a position where if we were to lose the wrong person, it could really put us in a bad spot. And like other, community-based organizations, we've obviously been struggling with just volunteerism as a whole. We've seen just people are busier in their lives nowadays and just aren't able to volunteer like they did. Along with that, we've seen increased EMS licensing requirements, training. So basically, it's becoming harder and harder to be an EMT and maintain those licenses. And along with that, we've seen increased administrative requirements, Medicare requirements, all the things that go along with providing EMS. One of the big things that we've really had to deal with over the years is with the lack of volunteers, and we've had to start paying people, and our payroll has increased from from zero to this year. We're looking at it's going to be over $300,000 to provide the service to the town, and that service right now looks like there will be 2 people on duty 24/7, 365 days a year until we end our service. So obviously we've seen some huge increases. Some of that, can be equated to, the high costs of living in our community. It's made it hard. It's decreased our year-round population, which has made it harder to get volunteers. The pandemic, unfortunately, has made a lot of this worse and kind of emphasized this issue this year. I mean, everybody's seen what properties are selling for. And things don't seem to be changing for the better in that regard. And we definitely see the writing on the wall that, that's going to be harder and harder to get volunteers. And when I say volunteers, it's really call staff. Like, Chief Bender says, we do pay our staff for the work they do, but we have no full-time employees. Another thing that's really been a hindrance to us is we have a relatively low call volume. So when you put into play the fact that our expenses are increasing drastically, the cost of ambulances are, going up. We're looking at, to buy a new ambulance, $200,000. For a cardiac monitor, it's $40,000. And then a payroll of $300,000. We only traditionally do around 300 calls a year. And this year with the pandemic, you would think the call volume would actually be higher, but it was actually a lot lower. And it can be contributed to many different things. One is the fact that nobody during the height of the pandemic really wanted to go to the hospital. So people were very hesitant to call the ambulance, and that all equates to revenue that way. And then where was I going with that? Either way, moving on. So with the low call volume and the high costs, one of the ways we pay for all this is obviously the revenue from these calls. So with the decreased revenue from the calls or the lower call volume, obviously that's affected us. Being a nonprofit ambulance service, we've been in a great spot to be able to fundraise. And, over the 80-something years that we've been around, we've had an amazing donor base that's really funded the operation and allowed us to not ask for any money from the town, up until 2 years ago when we started to ask for $10,000 for basically to cover wages and other increased costs. And this year has been no exception. I mean, we've had some amazing donors donate a lot of money so we could up our staffing. When COVID hit, we went to the staffing model of having 2 people on all the time to guarantee a crew, for the town. There was no guessing as far as having, just relying on the volunteer response. We thought it was important to have that guaranteed response for the town, which was great, and it worked out great. Our staff has been amazing during the COVID-19 pandemic. Everybody stepped up to the plate and they've done more than their fair share. We're talking about people that this isn't their primary job. They all have jobs in the community or work at other fire departments or ambulance services. And they've really done an awesome job. But yeah, I mean, really, we've looked as a board, we've gone over all these issues and looked at ways to try and deal with it. I mean, we looked at consolidation. Could we consolidate with another ambulance service locally? We looked at, would there be is there a better way of doing this? And we looked at lots of options. And really what we kept coming up with is that the town of Mount Desert really has the best resources to provide this service. And, you know, really as a board, what we were concerned with is providing the best service for the town. It doesn't necessarily have to say Northeast Harbor Ambulance on the side of the truck to do that. And so after, you know, a lot of conversation and a lot of trying to figure things out, we really decided that the town of Mount Desert really is in the best position to provide long-term, you know, advanced life support ambulance service for the community. And, you know, along with that, obviously we have the discussions of, you know, the building going on right now, the potential of hiring more full-time staff for the fire department. And it just seemed like right now was the time to deal with a lot of these issues. And we just didn't want to be in the position where someday we would lose the wrong person or, you know, lose a couple EMTs and not be able to fill those positions and basically have to come to the town spur of the moment saying, you know, we can't do this anymore. Or we get in a position where we start missing calls and, you know, we're providing a poor service. So with that being said, sorry, this mask, I'm losing my breath. So with that being said, we thought it was important that, you know, we are in good standing right now. You know, we see the outlook. It's, you know, spending $300,000 a year just in wages. It's going to affect us very negatively, you know, not too far out in the future. But if we have a finish line, we know where we have to make it. We could provide a good service and really guarantee that service to the town to put them in a position where they could actually have time to make a good, solid decision, set up a plan for the future. And, you know, and that's really what we came up with, that, you know, going forward with this, you know, whatever the town wants to do, you know, we do have a lot of resources that, you know, we definitely want to use to help the town through this process. There's a lot of knowledge, you know, between our board and our staff members. And we just really want to be here for the town. And what we're concerned with is just providing the best service to the town possible. And as much as it stinks to say it, I mean, the town's really in a better spot to do it than we are. So that's, I mean, kind of where we are. I covered a lot there. Scam, do you have anything?
This is Scamp Gray. I'm the president of the board of directors of the ambulance service. Basil has just laid this out pretty well. One of the things I want to note, he talked about we have a few key people in our service that keep this service going. And Basil is one of them. I don't know what we would do without him. And we have a few others also. But this is where we're coming from. If we should lose any of these people, we'd be in trouble. And we don't want to walk up to you someday and say, here's the keys, it's yours. We need to do this in the right way. We need to keep providing a good ambulance service to the people of the town. And we feel this is the only way it's going to happen if we start the process of turning this over to you. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. I'm assuming you're going to be advising us as we move forward with this.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to if the town would like us to do that. We would love to be as involved as you would like us to be. I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to add that I'm into my 50th year with the ambulance service. And this is kind of bittersweet for me. I mean, I hate to see this go, but the most important thing is to keep a good service for the town's people. So we feel that this is time for you to start to take this over, and we will work with you every way we can to help you do that.
Good. Well, thanks, guys.
If I could comment.
Yep.
I just want to say, as someone who grew up in this village and has lived here for many years, it's kind of a sad commentary as to what's happening with the town of Mount Desert, that we've done so little for affordable housing. I mean, this goes back to the 70s and 80s that we were very involved in trying to do something with affordable housing. And this is a result of not doing anything. The fact that we are losing volunteer firefighters and not be able to have an ambulance service. So it's just kind of sad commentary. It's very necessary, I know, but it's just a sad commentary.
Indeed. All right. Well, thanks, Basil.
Derlin, do you want a motion from the board to direct you to pursue this?
Yes, I'd made a sample motion. I'd like to get started on this as quickly as we could.
Sure.
Okay, so I would make a motion to direct Derlin, Fire Chief Bender, and Police Chief Willis to begin discussions with the Northeast Harbor Ambulance Service concerning the transfer of emergency medical response and care to the town of Mount Desert by January 1st, 2023.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Moving on to item C.
Yes, this is the annual scholarship awards, and I believe it's the same amount of money that we've been able to award in the past, because it's all dependent on the size of the trust, and the money gets less and less each year as far as how far it goes. Kathy is still on the line if you have any particular questions about the status of the trust, but we would like it at the end of the discussion to authorize the transfer of those amounts that are listed in my report. So.
Any questions, discussion? No, I would entertain a motion.
I would move that we follow the recommendations of Derlin and disperse the amounts listed.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Request to purchase snow blower.
We get some tweener sidewalks there that are a little bit too narrow for our plow and perhaps a little bit too big to be doing a lot of head shoveling. So Tony came up with the idea of getting a commercial grade snow blower to service the sidewalks that I listed in my memo and possibly some others that may fall in those gaps. And Tony is here online if you have any particular questions, but I would recommend that I think the snow blower will pay for itself and some of the damage that we won't be doing with the sidewalk plow. So.
I have a question for Tony, if that's all right.
Yes,
Sure, go ahead,
Go
John.
right ahead.
Now being a full-time year-round resident again, on my house on Rock End Road, I noticed that they only plow the sidewalk down to maybe W.A. Stanley and then it stopped there. And I'm just wondering if perhaps if we could do it a little further down Rock End Road because there are some people that are staying here year round now. If that would be something that could consider in the future.
Sure. Yes, John.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we authorize Tony Smith to purchase the snow blower he's selected from his bid to Honda from Greenway.
I'd second that.
Great. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Request for a warrant article for the May 2021 town meeting to fund engineering and design services for proposed addition to the Northeast Harbor Fire Station.
The recommendation that I gave you for the $357,500 is correct. but I forgot to list out underneath it A, B, and C. There should be a D, which is $25,000 for a contingency, and that will add up to the $357,500. The memo was for me from Mike Bender, and Mike is here if you should have any particular questions about this warrant article.
Okay, I do have a question, actually. Does this include project management?
No.
No, it does not.
So there's no project management in here for this price?
No.
Tony, go ahead.
This is just for design through bidding services to get us an actual construction cost, which would have project management added to it if we went to town meeting a year from now for construction funds.
Okay.
I have a question for Mike Bender, if that's, I know after hearing from Basil and the ambulance service, I'm assuming that the building needs and all those things will not change based on who's running what ambulance service. Is that accurate?
Well, not totally. There'll probably be some subtle changes in the floor plans. I think the overall size of the building, yes, that's going to stay, the footprint. But now that we're possibly looking at one department providing both services, we can probably eliminate some office space and subtle changes like that.
But not significant. I mean, I'm assuming some of these conversations that between you and Basil have taken place so as to the timing of this is probably important.
Yeah, it is. It's very important. I have to applaud them for coming to the town for now because we just starting this building project. So it's a good time to find this out. But no, the equipment's going to stay the same. The staffing is going to stay the same. So the overall building will probably pretty much stay the same. As I said, we may be able to combine a couple of offices and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're
Can
welcome.
I add something to Mike? Or whoever. This is Basil.
Right.
Yeah, just throughout the process, when I was working with Mike, I did have this in the back of my mind that this may be coming. So the things that we asked for really were fairly generic that, I kept in the back of my mind that it may not be us there and that, a lot of that stuff would be needed anyway. So that's just a heads up on that.
Okay.
John, I'd like to say something.
Go ahead.
We've had so much discussion about this over the last few months, and Wendy and Matt have brought up in other meetings, a number of people have come up to them and expressed reservations about this new building. And I've heard from people as well. There seem to be quite a few people in the community that are not in favor of this big new addition and the new station. I wish that more of them had come forward publicly to talk to us. This board likes to hear from the public and likes to know how people feel about the issues facing our town. We have heard from department heads who feel this is necessary, and they've graciously adjusted the price and the location to our specifications. When they first came to us, of course, it was about twice as much money. And, we had a lot of discussion. They came back with a lower figure, which I appreciate a lot. But I think the only way forward at this point is to put this on the warrant, let the voters decide. I look forward to a very healthy discussion on the town meeting floor. And I hope that people won't be shy about telling us how they feel.
I have a question on that. We're not voting this year on the building itself, are we?
No, what is being proposed, the motion hasn't been made yet, but what's being proposed is the design, engineering services and design for it. But it's a lot of money in itself.
Yes, it is. And I just wonder if
$1,000.
I just wonder if you're putting the cart before the horse a little bit here, that you ought to see if the voters want the building before you go ahead and spend $357,000 for something you may never have.
That's what they'll be.
You know, I'm getting some feedback too, as you are, from mainly summer residents who are complaining about the overall cost of this too. And I wonder if this is a year to even do it, because we're not going to be able to probably have a normal town meeting. It's probably going to be similar to what last year, where you sit in cars and wave flags or whatever you did. I think this ought to not even be a discussion this year. I think it ought to be saved for next year when everybody's been inoculated and we can have an actual in-person town meeting. I just wonder how much participation we're going to have.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
can I address that?
Yeah, please.
Well, number one, I think when you bring this to the voters, if you're allowed to bring this to the voters in the May meeting or the town meeting, I think that's going to be when you're going to find out if they want this building or not. If they vote this $350,000 down for the engineering study, then the project's probably dead. I can't see moving forward. So I think that'll be a good testament of whether they're willing to pay for this or not. As far as the timing goes, we actually started on this, or I started on this 17 months ago. So it's been over a year. And I can tell you right now, and I've been saying this for the last 3 years in both the board meetings and the warrant committee meetings, we don't have a lot of time left. You're probably at the best, you're looking at a completion date of 2 years. You've already found out tonight that the ambulance service is going to be pretty much folding in 2 years. So time is of the essence, and I don't think we have a lot of time to give. Even a year, I think pushing this out another year is going to be it's going to have a big impact on not only the fire service but the EM service for the town.
And I think it should be on the warrant for that reason, and let the voters decide.
Do you mean putting the whole cost of the whole thing on the warrant, or just at $357,000?
Well, I can make a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, no, this is Mike. Our recommendation is just to put the engineering studies
right
on the warrant.
All right. Yeah, I mean, we need a price to be able to put in front of the town, and we need the study to do that.
Yes.
So I make a motion to create a warrant article for the May 2021 annual town meeting in the amount of $357,500 for engineering services, information technology support, and communication costs for the proposed addition to the Northeast Harbor Fire Station.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Wendy. Any more discussion? Okay.
Chapin has his hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Chapin.
Just listening through all this is kind of disheartening the way you guys all talk about this, because when you guys decided to do all that Main Street renovation, which was quite a good chunk of money, and that has nothing to do with public safety. So I don't see why the board has such an issue with just the safety of the public, because you guys aren't the people who need to go talk to a family when the house burns down and they lose a family member. That is Chief Bender. So I don't know, you guys asked him to get a plan. He gave you his plan. And now you said, that's not good enough, too expensive. But that is what he's in charge of. He's in charge of public safety. He's in charge of getting the best plan for the town. And you guys are just shrugging it off. It's just kind of disheartening.
Chapin, I'm sorry if what I said struck you that way. I didn't intend it to. I am reporting, as others have before me, what the feedback we've been getting, which as elected officials, we have to at least consider and certainly put forward. I think public safety is very important to all of us. And I think that Mike Bender can make a good case at town meeting that this is important to the town's public safety.
I would add, this is Jeff Wood, I would add also that, and I think I've said this before, that when this proposal does come forward, I would strongly recommend that all the arguments in favor of the project that you're proposing are really well put together for the public, because people do react without a lot of knowledge sometimes. And so if you have you've made lots of comments and reports about staffing and costs and the trajectory of the needs and so on. I would really advise that those be well put together and prepared, because there are going to be people who need to know more before they would even come close to approving this.
I would agree with that. I would very much agree with that.
Yeah. Wendy.
I would just like to reply to Chapin that I certainly have complete support for our public safety, and I believe all of the other selectmen do, and we are not, taking this at heart or anything like that. I think just the times right now and the money and for myself, I'm grateful that Mike has been able to come back and try to work with everybody, but it is very difficult when you're talking with people, out in the community, and you're trying to relay their thoughts and ideas too. So Chapin, please, we completely understand your needs and your wants, and we are supportive of public safety for our community, because if we weren't, we wouldn't be sitting in these seats. So, I can just speak for myself, and I'm just trying to figure out a way to, make this work and make it work safely and make it work so that we're not reinventing the wheel in 10 years. And I completely appreciate Mike's work. He must feel sometimes like he's banging his head against the wall, but it's a learning process. And so I just want to say we do appreciate everything everybody's done. And now, for me to hear the ambulance service, that is just another, it's hard. There's a ton more money coming forward just to, be able to keep our community safe. So I'm just, that's our goal, and that's what we want to do.
This is Matt. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sorry, my computer decided to update itself, so I had to reconnect on my phone. So I missed about 90 seconds of the meeting there. So I just wanted to say that all these comments now, this is exactly why this needs to be on the floor of the town meeting or Park town meeting, wherever it happens to be, because it's a conversation that needs to be had. A lot of Chief Bender said, there's already 17 plus months of work that has gone into this. At some point, we just need to have the conversation. And I agree, maybe the turnout won't be great at the town meeting, but if we're being honest, is the turnout really ever great at the town meeting? No, we don't get anywhere near the participation that we should have at our town meetings. And I fully agree with what Martha said earlier. We need to hear from people. People need to be coming to our regular meetings. So in lieu of that, we need to sort of put it out there amongst the public and have this at the town meeting. That's why I would fully support putting this agenda item or warrant article on this upcoming warrant.
Thank you, Matt. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. I am looking for a motion.
There's been a motion.
Martha made a motion and Wendy seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Any other business? Oh. On to the warrants. Okay, warrants to be approved and signed town invoice AP in the amount of 100.
2146. 2146. It's
All
not on there.
All right. Town invoice AP 2146 in the amount of $113,247.35.
I move approval.
Second. Oh, we're supposed to say our names for this.
All right, Jeff Wood moves approval.
Martha Dudman seconds.
Great. Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
And I vote aye. John votes aye. Authorized warrants to be signed. AP 2144 in the amount of $4,005.57. AP 2145 in the amount of $11,048.14. Town payroll correction, PR 2106 in the amount of $120,522.79. And PR 2119 in the amount of $104,086.84.
Martha Dudman moves signature.
Jeff Wood seconds.
Okay, Martha, how do you vote?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Matt, how do you vote?
Matt Hart votes aye.
Wendy, how do you vote?
Wendy Littlefield abstains.
And John McCauley votes aye. Okay, warrants to be acknowledged. School invoice number 9 in the amount of $22,499.47. And school payroll 17 in the amount of $83,651.83.
Jeff Wood moves acknowledgement.
Wendy Littlefield seconds.
Great. Jeff, how do you vote?
Jeff Wood votes aye.
Wendy?
Wendy Littlefield votes aye.
Martha?
Martha Dudman votes aye.
Matt?
Matt Hart votes aye.
And John McCauley votes aye. Thank you, everyone. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move approval. Wendy.
Move adjournment.
Move adjournment.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Night.